I finished with 1969 in my previous video from last week with my um, Beatles albums that never were but could have been if they hadn't split up. We had my alternate 1969, a year where they were still together technically, but now it's getting maybe even more interesting with how will their 1970 turn out without the breakup. In March 1970 they will put out a double A-side single, Instant Karma, Maybe I'm Amazed. Great, that would be a fantastic single of course. And then in June 1970 they would release Abbey Road. So in 69 they had the Get Back double album. In June 1970 they would release Abbey Road with the iconic Abbey Road cover, and it would be exactly the same album as the Abbey Road we know, with one exception, because I already put Octopus's Garden on Get Back as a Ringo song. So they would It Don't Come Easy. I think It Don't Come Easy came out in early 71, but it was definitely written and rehearsed by George and Ringo in 1970. So the Ringo Starr solo single It Don't Come Easy would be the Ringo track on this version of Abbey Road, and Octopus's Garden, as I said, would be on Get Back. I think It Don't Come Easy and Octopus's Garden are kind of similar in terms of quality, so it would be a kind of similar Abbey Road. But maybe one thing that Abbey Road lacks, in my opinion, it was never my favorite Beatles album, it's a bit too mellow sometimes, so It Don't Come Easy is probably a bit more rocking than Octopus's Garden, so maybe it's even a slight improvement on Abbey Road in that sense. July 1970, this was pretty much as it was in 1969, but just 1 year later they would put out Something Come Together, double A-side single, in July 1970, and then that's my take on how Beatles could have sustained their career staying together as a group. If they all would have put out, to let off steam, to put out stuff that the others wouldn't like, and to be more their own man. Each Beatle would make a solo album in the second half of 1970. So in September 1970, George Harrison album, it can't be called All Things Must Pass because the track was already on My Get Back. But George Harrison would put out an album in September 1970, which has most of the songs that he released on his All Things Must Pass, minus the songs I already used on Get Back and on these other Beatles singles around the time. But it would still be a brilliant 14-15 track album in that scenario. October 1970, John Lennon would put out Lennon Plastic Ono Band. Again, he has still a great Plastic Ono Band, but it wouldn't be the exactly same Plastic Ono Band album as the released one, because as you will see in my year 1971 video, some of the, in my opinion, best or most Beatley, if there are such songs as Beatley songs from Plastic Ono Band, the most Beatley and best songs from Plastic Ono Band wouldn't be on this Plastic Ono Band. They would be held back for Beatles releases in 1971, but still he has enough material to make a good 10-track album at that point, and more this Primal Scream kind of music that wouldn't fit probably the Beatles formula at that time. And November 1970, Ringo would make a double album, very ambitious. He would make his All Things Must Pass and not George. He would make a double album which contains all the tracks from Sentimental Journey and Bucks of Blues. So it would be a concept album. Ringo, I like two sorts of music besides rock and roll. I like country music and I like all standards. So I make my favorite standards on one half of the double album and my favorite country or country songs that are written for me that are cool on the second album. I don't know, maybe call that album Stardust, which was the working title for Sentimental Journey. That would be a great album, because if you watch my Best of Ringo Starr albums video, you will notice that I really like those two solo albums by his. So to make one great double album out of it, he would have maybe the best solo album of 1970 by all the Beatles in that sense. And I forgot, McCartney would do his McCartney in August 1970, but of course without tracks like Maybe I'm Amazed that were used for the Beatles in that scenario. So that was my... Oh, and in December 1970 they would release a best of album, maybe call it even Hey Jude or The Beatles Again, which were the titles for their 1970 best of album. I would alter the tracklist a bit to the one that they put out in 1970, because I think I never understood why they put on songs like I Should Have Known Better, which aren't really hits. But this album would focus on all the non-album tracks, you know, single A-sides that weren't on albums. To be a good idea for a best of album to close the 60s with it, so to make room for a fresh start in the 70s. And more on that in my next video.